They say you can never go home, but I'm in my hometown for the holidays, rediscovering gems, trying new things, and making photos while I'm in Clearwater, Florida. Let's find out what happens. Hometown Chronicles. What's up, y'all? It's good to see you as always. Happy that you're joining me. Today it brings me great joy to talk about a purchase that I made, a purchase that was long on my vision board, long in my heart, a purchase for a camera that I have thought about a lot. The Leica M3, y'all. Alright, so I bought this camera back in December, about 4 months ago, and I had a chance to use it when I was home in Florida during my hometown series. So this isn't going to be a review because what can I say about the Leica M3 that has not been said already? Nothing. I really believe there's nothing I could say. It's all been written, it's all been said, the camera is legendary, and I'm just happy to have it. Instead, I'm going to try to add value in a different way. I'm going to be telling you guys why I chose to buy the Leica M3 out of all the Leica rangefinders or rangefinders in general. I'm also going to be talking about why I chose to buy the lens that I bought, the Canon LTM 50mm f1.4, also known as the Japanese Summilux. And then I'll be letting you guys know how I feel about the camera now that I've had it for 4 months and can speak to you as a proud owner of this camera. So let's break it down. It's like my best friend. She always got my back, you know? She's like right on my shoulder. All right, let me stop playing. Why the Leica M3? I didn't settle on the Leica M3 out of nowhere because, as you guys know by now, I just don't do things randomly. Unless things are randomly given to me. If things are randomly given to me, I'm going to try them because that's how I do. But this is not the case with the Leica M3. I've known I've wanted a Leica since I got into film photography. Forget that. I've known I've wanted a Leica since I got into photography. I'm not sure exactly what it is. Maybe it's the simplicity of the camera. The system's very straightforward on all the cameras that they put out. The more I learned about Leica, the more I knew that I wanted to eventually own one myself. It might have been a year ago, it might have been 2 years ago. I went to Photoville in LA. It was the first year they had ever done it here, and they haven't done it since, which is a bummer. But Leica came through. They were one of the sponsors, one of the companies that was out there allowing patrons to come out and try their cameras. I got to try the M10 paired with the 50mm Summilux, and woo-wee! To say I was changed would be an understatement. Not like, you know, physically changed or like emotionally or spiritually changed, but you know, my world was open, my horizons opened up. I fell a little bit in love that day when I held that Leica and used that lens, that pairing. It was, it opened me up to the possibilities. I will say there's a difference between seeing something and holding something, and so holding one of their newer versions of their rangefinder cameras really motivated me more to get into Leica. I didn't necessarily want to go into digital Leica though. I knew I preferred to shoot film, and so I started to look more seriously into the film rangefinders. As you guys know, I have a Leica C2, which is a point and shoot camera, which was technically my first Leica. Love the point and shoot, not the same thing. Nonetheless, moving on. First, I looked into the Leica M6 because the Leica M6 is the classic Leica that everyone talks about, and a lot of famous photographers have used this tool. I ran the numbers, all the numbers, many times, and it kept coming out to about $5,000 to get into the system fully. The only way this would not be the case for you is if you got lucky, came across the Leica M6 at a yard sale and they didn't really know the value, or an estate sale. But people typically Google things nowadays, so I just feel like it would take a lot of luck to get into a Leica M6 for under $5,000. If you did, let me know how. Did you inherit this camera? Did you find it somewhere deep at an estate sale? I myself could not find a Leica M6 body and lens combination for less than $5,000. And at this time in my life, I am not looking to spend $5,000 on one camera. It just does not make sense to me financially. Not to say that I won't in the future. God willing, I will be balling with a bigger budget in the future because I don't hate the game. I'm just trying to up myself as a player in this game. And we should all have that mentality and not hate on other people for having expensive cameras. Because I get it, you know, you always want the best tools that you possibly can to make images. But just know the tools don't make you a good photographer. Makes you a good photographer. When I was doing all my reading, it came down to two cameras. It came down to the Leica M2 and the Leica M3. And the battle began for me trying to figure out which of these two cameras that I wanted more. As these things go, if you are someone who buys cameras or anything that's kind of a specialty regularly, the market fluctuates on items. Sometimes if a review comes out or a bunch of reviews come out, a product will skyrocket in price or it will decline in price depending on how it is spoken about. I pay attention to these things. And it seems like over the past year or two or three, the Leica M2 had been getting a lot of reviews and getting talked up on multiple platforms across the internet. What this does is it causes an increase in demand. So in December, when I was looking to buy a Leica, I saw that the price for the Leica M2 had gone up exponentially. At that time, I believe it was trending for about $1,500 for the body. No lens. And I saw the Leica M3 was trending between like around 12 to 14. The differences between the two cameras for me basically came down to lens and price. Yeah, lens and price. The lens and price were the two things that it came down to for me because otherwise these two cameras are very similar. So I asked myself, what did I care most about? On the Leica M2, you can shoot wider. You can go 28, 35, 50, and up and beyond. On the Leica M3, it starts at 50 for your widest and you go up from there. With the Leica M3 costing less at the time and me not wanting to spend more as usual, I asked myself, could I rock with a 50? And the truth of the matter is, for the first 3 years of my photography, I exclusively shot a 50mm lens. And this was just what it was. Most of the cameras that I was buying came with the standard 50mm lens. So I was very used to using it. I like it because of its versatility. I'm able to take pretty close portraits. I'm able to step back and get more of the scene. And a lot of times you can get a pretty fast 50mm lens. So with that in mind, I lean more towards the Leica M3. The Leica M3 is a fully mechanical camera. That's up my alley. You guys know I like mechanical cameras. I don't like being too dependent on batteries. Unfortunately, the Leica M3 does not come with a light meter. I will say over the past few months, I have gotten better at reading light as I walk around the neighborhood because I am too lazy to keep pulling out my light meter. I'll meter when I first get outside for the lights and shadows, and then I will go from there and make my best guesses reading the light that I see before me when I come upon a scene. I think it's made me better at reading light, but it's still challenging. I think I am going to look for an external light meter, the kind that goes on top of the Leica M3 just to make it simpler. So yeah, that's really what it came down to for me deciding to go with the Leica M3 for my first Leica M rangefinder. I could have gone with one of the earlier Barnack Leicas, but as you guys saw in my review of the Leica 2C, whew, loading it was just so difficult for me that I just never want to put myself through that again. You know, if you're looking to get into Leica for less than $1,000, look at some of those older Barnack creations. Why the Japanese Summilux? Fair question. I know later on I'm going to want Leica glass. Leica glass is expensive. Good, like, well, all Leica glass is pretty good, so let's be real. But Leica glass is always expensive, and I knew that I would have to save up more money to get the lens that I want. My dream lens is the 50mm Apo Summicron f2. This lens is mad expensive, and it's going to be a while, for real. It's going to be a very, very long time. But you know, as things change in life as they do, this may seem like a drop in the bucket in 5-10 years for me. Hopefully less, please. And even getting a used is still crazy expensive, but I'm probably going to get a used. Knowing that this is the kind of lens that I want in the future, I wanted to get a lens to pair with it right now that was far less expensive, but still produced quality images. Quality images that were also unique to the lens. I looked into the Jupiter 8 50mm lens, which is a Russian lens that I paired with the Leica 2C in that review. I really like the way that that lens rendered colors, very muted and understated. I like that a lot. And then I looked at the Leica LMR lens, which is an older screw mount lens as well. This lens also produces some really beautiful images and has a distinct look. And then I looked into the Canon LTM 50mm f1.4 lens, which has a nickname, the Japanese Summilux. It came down to me on the internet late at night looking at images on Flickr of how each of these lenses rendered images. And at the end of my marathon of scrolling through Flickr and comparing images, I decided to go with the Canon LTM 50mm f1.4 because that's the way the cookie crumbled on this one. To date, I have only shot one roll of color film with this lens. I shot a roll of Portrait 400 with this lens while I was at Manhattan Beach one morning, and the colors came out pretty muted like I like. Here are a few of those images here. Before I form an opinion on how this lens renders colors, I will have to shoot more rolls and get back to you guys. But I know for a fact I very much enjoy the way this lens renders black and white images. I have taken tons of them. Here are more. Canon produced lots of these lenses when they released it, and it's still fairly easy to get one of these lenses on eBay for a really good price and really good condition. My lens is clean, y'all. Woo, clean on the inside and clean on the outside. Since this is a Leica thread mount lens, I had to get an adapter to put it on my Leica M mount camera, but once I did, it works perfectly. If you yourself are looking to get into Leica, buying a thread mount lens is a cheaper way to get into the system, save up for a better lens down the road. I'm here to help. So what are my feels about my purchase so far? Honestly, I have no regrets. This camera has turned into my everyday camera. If I'm going out to the store, it's on my shoulder. If I'm going out for the day with my sister, going to the beach, going on a hike, wherever, whenever, I take this camera. It's easy to use, it's fully mechanical. I like that a lot. It's a camera that inspires me to want to take images. The more images I take, the more comfortable I get with the camera. It's the camera that I definitely try to have on me as much as possible to learn it so that it becomes second nature, almost reflex when I'm out on the streets taking images. I've used this camera to document my life with my family. I've used this camera while on vacation. I've used this camera to document a neighborhood for a project. And I plan on using this camera moving forward for more projects and for more personal use. It's just a very versatile, easy camera to use that I'm confident in. I would love to say, I don't think I'll ever sell this camera. How many times have I said that? Have I said that and sold one of the cameras on this channel? As these things go, cameras come in and out of your life, you know, but I really, really, really like owning this camera. It feels like my camera. Some cameras feel more like yours than others. I'm sure you guys know what I'm talking about at this point if you have owned many different cameras. I love the quiet shutter on the street. People never turn and look at me when I take a photo. It's fantastic. The viewfinder is big, it's bright, it's easy to see what I'm looking at. The camera is very unassuming in appearance. I love that as well. Here's some parting advice. When I first got into photography and I started learning how much cameras cost, I used to think, man, there's no way I'll ever be able to afford a Leica. Leica's too expensive. It's beyond me. I would tell myself things like that. And I had to really get out of that mind state. Telling yourself negative things does not help you. Telling yourself what you will never have does not help you. My mother always told me as a child to speak on things that I wanted. And if you speak on things, you will get them because you're putting out that positive energy. And if you are putting out positivity, you will get it back. I used to say, I really want a Pentax 6.7. At that time when I wanted it, I was like, oh, it's so expensive. I don't know if I can get that. I got it in pieces, like I spoke to you guys about in this video, which I'll post here. about my first medium format camera. I knew I wanted Leica, but I used to tell myself, it's so expensive. I'll never get into Leica, or I'll have to be like 50 or close to retirement by the time I get a Leica. And that's just not true. If you put yourself in position, if you speak positively, if you plan and you save and you keep your eye on the market for cameras and you stay open to the possibility of receiving things, then I full-heartedly believe that you can have them. And that is what I want to share with you guys. You don't have to do things all at once. I didn't have to go out and buy the Leica M6 with the 50 apo at one time. I didn't have to do that. I don't have that camera, but it's in my sights. I know I want that camera. I know I want that setup eventually. I'm open to the possibility of it becoming my reality. And when you think like that, and when you move like that, and when those are your intentions, and you're putting those types of thoughts out into the universe, you can have that stuff. And I just want to share that with you guys because I have done these things. I have made these things happen for myself, and I did not think it would be possible. But man, all we have are possibilities. So if you have a camera out there that you really want, but you don't have the funds to get it yet, don't get down about it. Plan for it. Fun fact, the Leica M3 body is currently trending up. They're good investments, yeah, they're good investments. If I have to sell the camera one day because I need the money, God forbid, I can, and I'll get my money back, if not more money, because Leica is one of those brands that sells well. You retain your money, typically, so that's something to keep in mind. All right, so I hope this video offered you a new perspective on getting into Leica. If you're thinking about getting into Leica, I hope it enlightened you and offered something new to the conversation about the Leica M3, because there really was no new review that I could do about the Leica M3. It's a legendary camera. So much has been said about this camera. So many famous photographers have used this camera. So I just want to share with you guys my journey into the Leica rangefinder system. Like this video if it brought you any value today, or if you were just entertained by my ramblings on why I bought this camera. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so yet, and I will see you in the next one. All right, everybody. Peace. Look at her. Isn't she cute? She more than cute, yo. She bad. She bad with it. Oh, don't hurt him. Don't hurt him. All right, hurt him just a little bit. Make him respect it. Bam. All the angles on her. Look at the angles on her. Man, so happy. Boom, 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 boom. Let them know what's up. Tick, 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 tick. Okay. You know me, I can get carried away.